It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing, we didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now, from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble, but this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Why should voters vote for?
I agree. I think that it's a disgrace what happened. I think that it was an abuse of power, and I think that as much as it's a bad thing, it will face appeals, and maybe in a different court it will be looked at differently. And I also think that this is opening up tons of people's eyes to how corrupt our system is.
I was in Europe last week fundraising with some of the largest pension plans and institutions in London, England, and Geneva, Switzerland, and in previous weeks when this thing started in the Middle East. This is really bad for our American brand. Forget about Trump for a second. We took someone out of the executive office. We had a porn star talking about sex with condoms in court to an executive of an ex-president of the United States. That's what happens in Venezuela. That's what happens in and so I walked in these meetings and they want to talk about porn star wars. I thought to myself, what are we doing to our brand?
So that's going to bring us into our first section about Trump. Then I have some articles about the bird flu, a section called War, a free speech section, a brain chip section, and my last section is called Double Standards. So this is the Citizens Report. My name is William Donahue, and please like and share this video. Also subscribe to my channel. Send this to people. Get this information out there and get this video out there so that people can be prepared for what's coming, because I have a jam-packed day with articles and videos and things that will have an impact on your life. So it would only be beneficial to, one, watch this, but also to spread this information so that like-minded people can do their part and stand in the gap, and hopefully we can make change for the better. So the first section about Trump. Trump was charged with 34 felonies. Each of those felonies could hold a 4-year sentence in prison and a $5,000 fine. So he will be sentenced, and I guess we'll have to wait till that happens to see what the results are going to be. But basically, pretty much everything that I just said is how I feel, and I think that it's important for people to look into the details of what happened here and dig things up and create your own opinion, because there was conflict with the judge, there was conflict, they had to change the rules, this was past the statute of limitations, the judge's daughter was taking donations from campaign people for the Democrat Party, and Biden held a rally outside of the courthouse.
And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life? I hope this new ad campaign reaches outside the bubble to remind supporters of what a danger he is to our lives. This is not a threat. This is a reality. And that's why I've joined the Biden-Harris campaign, because the only way to preserve our freedoms and hold on to our humanity is to vote for Joe Biden for president. Really.
Showing that it's political, so we'll have to wait to see what happens. But like I said, the appeals process, maybe in a different court with a different judge, it'll get looked at differently. So that's what Trump is dealing with over something that really shouldn't have been brought forward into a court case to begin with. Now Biden, on the other hand, in Ohio, didn't fill out the form to get put on the ballot. So the Democrats are planning to do a virtual meeting where they nominate him to be on the ballot for this upcoming election. Now, this article says Republican officials in Ohio have escalated a standoff over the convention's dates in the state ballot access laws. If there's a law in place that says if you don't sign up by a certain date, you're not allowed on the ballot, and you don't follow it, then you shouldn't be allowed on the ballot. So it's not that the Republicans are escalating, it's that the Democrats are trying to change the rules so that they could have their guy on the ballot for this election. So that's the end of my Trump section. Basically, just a compare and contrast on the treatment of one, a former president, and two, the sitting president of the United States. So this is my bird flu section. Another pandemic is absolutely inevitable, says Patrick Vallance. Former UK Chief Scientific Advisor warns we are not ready yet and urges next government to prepare. So he spoke at the G7 summit, and again he reiterated the same thought, that we need better surveillance to be able to pick up these things. So they're signaling that there's fear around bird flu. 2 people in total got pink eye, and it already went away. But they're saying that there's potential for this pandemic. So this article, bird flu vaccine is made with eggs. That has scientists worried. So they're saying that because eggs come from chickens, the egg could carry the bird flu, and that could tamper the vaccine itself. And then they're also saying that the bird flu in the chickens makes eggs an unreliable source for the creation of the vaccine, because it would be not cost effective and not done in a timely manner. So that's the conflict, and the resolution is to use mRNA technology to create the vaccines rapidly to solve a bird flu. If you watch this and wonder why I don't say the same thing as everyone on TV, it's because nobody pays me to do this.
Anderson Cooper 360. Brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by Pfizer. Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer. CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer.
So, I don't know if anyone heard this in like first or maybe fourth or fifth grade, but you can't actually vaccinate against colds or flus because they mutate so rapidly. So unless you create a vaccine that acts like birdshot coming out of a shotgun and it just hits a wide variety of target of the type of virus, it wouldn't really work. And then if you do that, what are the possibilities of those buckshot, if you want to call it? What's the possibility that vaccine capable of taking out a wide variety of viruses doesn't have also the capability to accidentally latch on to something it's not supposed to? So that's my opinion about this bird flu vaccine. Just like last time, I guess they're probably going to say trust the science. The science that was implemented and led by the World Health Organization has all slowly been proven to be not working. So the vaccine itself, they said was safe and effective, 100% safe and effective, and that has been proven to be dishonest. The masking itself, they said never worked and had no scientific basis. The 6-foot social distancing didn't work, and there was no studies to say that we should or shouldn't be doing that at the time, but they implemented it on a whim or on a hunch or whatever. So basically, so the bird flu is gearing up, and we have this, which actually is a little bit of a win for the United States, because our House of governors, we as governors of our respective states stand united in opposition to 2 proposed instruments currently under negotiation that would purport to grant the World Health Organization unprecedented and unconstitutional powers over the United States and its people. These proposed changes could drastically change the role of government's response to their charge as the state health officials. So the World Health Organization pandemic treaty was shot down and won't be passed this time around. The World Health Organization has stated that they're gonna alter it and try again to get it passed, which basically means reword it and do it over and over again until they get it passed. So good job to this group of governors who stood against it. So for my next section, it's about war. This article, "No One's Left," Palestinian describes deadly camp strike as Israel pushes deeper into Rafah despite global outrage. So Israel just got caught bombing a refugee tent camp where 45 people are pronounced dead. Netanyahu has vowed to continue the war against Hamas amid international condemnation of an airstrike that killed scores of Palestinians in Rafah Sunday. So he said he's not giving up. The U.S. is still sending weapons there. And this picture is Nikki Haley signing one of the bombs that Israel's going to use probably for another refugee strike, if I had to guess, because that's what we've been hearing. She wrote on the bomb, she said, "Finish them," on the bomb, and she said something like, "America loves Israel," or something like that. So, Nikki Haley is a warmonger. Israel seizes equipment of U.S. news agency. Israeli authorities raided an Associated Press live position in the south of the country on Tuesday. that happened. Then there was backlash. So under U.S. pressure, Israel reverses crackdown against AP. So Israel, the U.S. cares because this is a United States news agency. Israel kicked out and did the same thing to Al Jazeera, and then AP was allowing Al Jazeera to cast their live footage on Al Jazeera's platform. And Israel said that that violated one of their new laws, and then they raided and shut down AP Israel. So the U.S. Basically said that they don't like that, and Israel reversed what they said, but this law still exists, and when a country is attacking journalists, you know that they're doing something wrong. So, if anything, this incriminates Israel even more. Israel says Gaza war likely to last another 7 months as tanks probe Rafah. So 7 more months of that. I wonder how many Palestinians are left. I don't know if they keep bombing, if there'll be any left in 7 months, but Israel says that they're going to keep going with the war, and they said they have 7 months left, and Netanyahu says that he says that basically they won't stop the war until all their goals are completed, something like that. So, U.S. Gaza pier knocked out of action by heavy seas. The United States military made a temporary pier on the edge of Gaza, and it was supposed to supply aid to the Palestinians. Now, this aid would have went from the United States military, been handled by IDF forces, and then been delivered to Palestinians. So, I don't know if it was ever a guarantee that the Palestinians would have gotten the aid if it went through the IDF as a middleman, but regardless, they're definitely not getting anything now because the pier that the military built broke off and floated into the Mediterranean Sea. So that's Army engineering for you. This is about the Ukraine-Russia conflict, part of my war section. Nuclear threat. Russia's Medvedev warns Poland will get its share of radioactive ash. So you see in this picture on the side, I think that if any nuclear bombs go off, everyone's going to get their share of radioactive ash. And basically, these countries are throwing around nuclear bomb threats at each other all the time. Every time that some escalation happens, they say, if you do this, we'll nuke you. Well, if you do that, we'll nuke you. So, basically, things are heating up, and it's getting very serious. Now NATO training for nuclear strike on Russia, says a Russian general. NATO nations are preparing for possible nuclear strikes on Russia, says Moscow general. NATO intelligence operations close to Russian border are on the rise. Forces of the alliance are intensifying military training in which they work out military scenarios against Russian Federation, including nuclear strikes on our territory, he told the news agency on Tuesday. So, that's probably the biggest thing that we have to avoid right now as a people. So, basically, if this happens, we'll be blown back to the Stone Age. And actually, I forget the outlet, but recently, mainstream news had a guest on that wrote a book. It was called 72 Minutes to the End of the World. And it was talking about the war game scenarios and how long it would take for the entire world to be covered in nuclear bombs because it's like dominoes. If one falls, the whole stack just keeps falling. So this is my free speech section. Webseed Inc., which manages naturalnews.com, is suing the Department of State, the Global Engagement Center, Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, NewsGuard Technologies, Inc., Institute for Strategic Dialogue, Global Disinformation Index, Meta Platforms, Facebook, Google, X, Twitter, and then a bunch of John Does, John Doe 1 through 10. And they're suing. They say this lawsuit is multifaceted regarding the interrelationship between various actors, wrongdoers, defendants, and the acts, wrongs flowing from those relationships. That said, however, there is a common denominator to all the wrongs committed by defendants and complained of herein, an anti-competitive animus. So they're saying that the government itself has their own narrative, and then they're funding NGOs who tell social media platforms to ban or censor certain people. So basically implicating that the government is paying people to shut down free speech of competing voices that may not agree with government narratives. And this is a free speech case, and a lot of other people are named in the case, so this is kind of like a model for people mentioned or people who feel like this applies to also sue for the same thing. So this section, brain chips, one article. Neuralink receives FDA approval to implant brain chip in second patient. So the first one must have took. This brain chip is called telepathy, so we'll see if they gain telepathy with each other, the two brain chipped people on this planet, once this goes in. But this is the second brain chip. The first brain chip was monitored, and apparently the FDA thinks that a second person could receive it for an expansion of that trial size. So then this article here is called Double Standards. So on one standard, migrant arrested for the 10th time in 10 months. So it wasn't until he did a crime that injured a police officer that he was officially charged with a felony. So he's an illegal immigrant. One, that's already breaking the law. You're in the country illegally, you're already guilty of a crime. So he committed 11 crimes, basically, or more. But he was arrested 10 times in 10 months and continued to get out 9 times until this time it injured a police officer and was deemed worthy of a felony charge. But this guy, one time, Florida police searched for a person who did donuts on LGBT flag street mural. So it's like a crosswalk with the rainbow flag, and somebody did donuts on it and then drove away. So the police are or were searching for the person who did this. Now, whenever in the world, on any street, you see fishtails, you see donuts, sometimes you're driving and you're like, whoa, someone must have had fun this weekend. There's a huge burnout, line on the blacktop, right? So police never hunt down or go and look for somebody that does a regular burnout unless they're outside the bar doing donuts and they just walked out and you could tell they were drinking or something like that. But you never like hear about them tracking down every single person who squeals their tires. This guy just so happened to, maybe not just so happened, he might have done it intentionally, but he did a burnout on a rainbow colored crosswalk. So they're gonna let the dogs loose to go on a search for him, and this guy will be brought down for one offense of doing a donut on a crosswalk that's rainbow colored. So let an illegal alien out 9 times until he hurts a police officer, and that's okay. But if you do a donut on an LGBT flag, you will be hunted down for one single offense. So that's the double standards that our country is ruled by, and basically it's up to us to straighten out the narrative so that there is no more double standards and we can return back to normalcy when things were simple and things made sense, even if some of it had a little bit of a layer of deception. At least it wasn't so blatant and so egregious. So that's all I have for you tonight. That's the Citizens Report. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.
Thank you for watching The Citizens Report with William Donahue. On this show, we search for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the world around us through the lens of an American citizen.